The grand lobby of the Crystal Horizon Hotel buzzed with the clinking of glasses, rolling luggage, and the quiet hum of polite conversation. Guests in tailored suits and flowing dresses gathered near the marble reception desk, each absorbed in their own world. Then, the glass doors swung open. A tall, sharply dressed man entered, his presence alone commanding attention. Whispers spread like wildfire. It was Hiroshi Takeda, the Japanese billionaire known for buying failing hotels and turning them into empires. His perfectly tailored navy suit, silver cufflinks, and calm expression made him look like a character stepped straight out of a drama series. The staff scrambled. The concierge bowed slightly, but there was a visible nervousness in the air. Mr. Takeda stepped forward and began speaking, rapidly, in Japanese. The room froze. The manager frowned and glanced at his staff, but no one moved. Guests turned to watch, sensing the awkwardness. Mr. Takeda's expression shifted slightly, his words slowing as if he realized no one understood. The silence was thick. The only sound was the soft trickle of water from the indoor fountain. That's when a clear, confident voice cut through the tension from the far side of the lobby. Sumimasen, Takeda-sama. May I assist you? Every head turned toward a young woman standing near the seating area. She closed the book she'd been reading, walked gracefully toward him, and continued speaking, in perfect Japanese. Mr. Takeda's eyes widened, and the entire hotel seemed to hold its breath. The young woman moved with a quiet confidence, her heels clicking against the polished marble floor. She stopped a respectful distance from Mr. Takeda, gave a small bow, and spoke again, this time a bit slower, as if to make sure her words were perfectly clear. I heard you needed assistance. May I help? Her pronunciation was flawless, her tone polite yet warm. For a moment, Mr. Takeda simply stared at her, almost suspicious. His eyes flicked over to the hotel manager, who now stood awkwardly at the side, completely useless in the situation. The billionaire responded in Japanese, his voice low but measured. You speak my language, fluently. How? The young woman smiled faintly. I studied in Tokyo for 6 years. I worked with several hospitality groups before coming here. A ripple of whispers ran through the crowd. Most of the staff hadn't even known she could speak Japanese. In fact, few people at the hotel knew anything about her beyond her first name, Maya. Mr. Takeda's expression softened slightly, though his sharp gaze remained. Then perhaps you can explain why no one here seemed prepared for my arrival. Maya glanced briefly at the manager before answering smoothly, still in Japanese. That is a matter I will personally see corrected, sir. The billionaire gave the smallest of nods, a gesture of approval. The tension in the air began to melt, but something in his eyes suggested that Maya had just stepped into a much bigger role than she expected. The murmurs in the lobby had faded, replaced by an odd mix of curiosity and admiration. Guests leaned toward each other, whispering about the mysterious young woman who had just rescued the entire situation. Mr. Takeda adjusted his cufflinks, then spoke to Maya again, still in Japanese, his tone sharper this time. Come with me. It wasn't a question. Maya hesitated for a heartbeat, aware of dozens of eyes on her, then nodded. Of course. The billionaire started walking toward the private elevator near the back of the lobby. The hotel manager took a nervous step forward, as if to follow, but Mr. Takeda raised a single hand without even turning around. The message was clear, stay where you are. Maya followed him into the elevator. The moment the doors closed, the atmosphere shifted. Gone was the public, watchful crowd, now it was just the two of them, the quiet hum of the elevator, and the faint scent of his cologne. Mr. Takeda studied her for a long moment before speaking. You handled yourself well. But I have to ask, why would someone with your skills be working here in such a small role? Maya met his gaze without flinching. Sometimes, the best opportunities hide in plain sight. A faint smile tugged at the corners of his mouth, but his eyes held a calculating glint. We'll see about that. I have a proposal for you, but it will require complete discretion. The elevator chimed, the doors slid open, and Maya realized they weren't heading to a standard hotel floor. They had arrived at the penthouse suite, Mr. Takeda's private residence. The penthouse doors opened into a breathtaking expanse of glass, marble, and city lights. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the skyline like a living painting, while soft instrumental music played in the background. Maya stepped inside, her eyes briefly scanning the room. This wasn't just luxury, it was curated perfection. Every object seemed deliberately placed, from the antique Japanese tea set on the low table to the rare bonsai tree by the window. Mr. Takeda walked ahead, removing his jacket and draping it neatly over a chair. He gestured for her to sit. "Tea?" he asked in English this time. "Yes, please," Maya replied, settling onto the edge of the couch. She kept her posture straight, her expression calm, even as questions swirled in her mind. Mr. Takeda poured the tea himself, a surprising gesture for a man of his stature. He handed her a delicate porcelain cup, then took his own seat opposite her. "I came here to finalize the purchase of this hotel," he began. "But after today's display, I'm questioning whether the current staff is capable of representing my brand." Maya took a careful sip of tea, waiting. He leaned forward, his gaze sharp. "You're different. You understood me instantly. You stayed calm when others froze. I need someone like that on my team, someone who can bridge gaps and avoid costly mistakes." Maya tilted her head slightly. "Are you offering me a job?" His smile was faint but unmistakable. "Not just a job. A position that could change your life." But before she could respond, his phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at it, and for a split second, a shadow crossed his face. The buzzing of the phone seemed to slice through the calm of the penthouse. Mr. Takeda's expression tightened as he read the name flashing on the screen. Without excusing himself, he answered in Japanese, his tone clipped and urgent. Maya couldn't understand every word. He was speaking faster now, his voice low, but certain phrases stood out: "not ready," "delay," and "leak." After a tense exchange, he ended the call and set the phone down a little harder than necessary. The faint chime of porcelain rattling on the table filled the silence. He looked directly at her. "It seems I was correct, there is a problem with this hotel's management." Maya waited, sensing this was more than just a staffing issue. He continued, "Confidential documents regarding the purchase have been leaked to a competitor. Someone in this building has been feeding information to them." Her brows furrowed. "And you think it's one of the staff?" "I know it is," he replied firmly. "But I don't know who. That's why I need someone new, someone who isn't part of the current circle, to quietly observe and find the leak." Maya sat back slightly, her mind racing. Just an hour ago, she'd been reading in the lobby, invisible to everyone. Now, she was being asked to step into a role that felt dangerously close to espionage. "You could hire a private investigator," she pointed out. He gave a short shake of his head. "An outsider would be noticed immediately. But you're already here. And they won't suspect you." For a long moment, Maya said nothing. She stared at the city lights beyond the window, weighing the risk. Then she turned back to him. "If I do this, I'll need complete access. No restrictions." His lips curved into a knowing smile. "Deal." The next morning, Maya stepped into the lobby not as an ordinary hotel staff member, but as Mr. Takeda's silent operative. Her instructions were clear: observe, listen, and report, without revealing her new position to anyone. She wore the same professional uniform as before, blending seamlessly with the team. But this time, every glance, every whispered conversation, and every shift in body language caught her attention. By mid-morning, she'd already noticed 3 suspicious things: the night manager, Carl, slipping into the office early and leaving with an unmarked envelope. The head concierge, speaking on the phone in hushed tones while covering the receiver whenever someone walked by. A bellhop, unusually nervous whenever he passed the front desk, avoiding eye contact with the managers. At lunch, Maya positioned herself at a corner table in the staff lounge, pretending to scroll through her phone while listening. Two housekeepers chatted nearby, unaware of her presence. "I heard he's selling the hotel to some foreign guy," one whispered. "Not just selling, someone's trying to block the sale. And they're paying good money for info," the other replied. Maya's stomach tightened. This was confirmation that the leak wasn't just speculation. It was active, and close. That evening, she slipped into the employee records room under the pretense of delivering a file. Inside, she quickly photographed staff schedules, email printouts, and shift reports with her phone. Every piece of information could be a clue. When she returned to the lobby, Mr. Takeda was standing near the elevator. He didn't approach her, just gave the faintest nod, a silent acknowledgement that he knew she was already working. But what Maya didn't know was that someone else had noticed her sudden attentiveness, and they were already suspicious. Why the next day, the energy in the hotel felt different. Maya couldn't quite put her finger on it, but there was a new weight to every glance she received. She was serving coffee to a pair of guests in the lounge when she caught sight of someone in her peripheral vision, the bellhop she had noticed earlier, standing by the service door, watching her a little too intently. When she looked his way, he instantly pretended to check his watch and walked off. That wasn't the only odd moment. While carrying a stack of fresh towels to the spa level, she overheard the concierge whispering again, but this time her name was mentioned. "Maya's been asking more questions lately," the man said in a low voice. "Do you think she knows?" A pause. A muffled reply from the other end of the line. Then, more clearly, "If she's on to us, she won't last here long." Her pulse quickened. She kept moving, acting as though she had heard nothing. But inside, her mind was already spinning with possibilities. Whoever was leaking information now saw her as a threat, and that meant they might make the first move against her. Later that evening, as she left through the staff entrance, she noticed a black sedan parked across the street. The engine was running, but the windows were tinted too dark to see inside. The moment she stepped onto the sidewalk, the car pulled away slowly, deliberately. Maya knew then, this wasn't just a job anymore. She was in the middle of something far bigger and far more dangerous than she'd realized. The following night, Maya left the hotel later than usual. The hallways were quiet, most of the staff already gone. She stepped into the cool night air, her breath faint in the glow of the street lamps. She didn't have to look far, the same black sedan was there, idling a short distance away. This time, instead of walking to the bus stop, she turned down a narrow side street. Her footsteps echoed against the brick walls. She counted in her head, 1, 2, 3, and sure enough, the soft hum of the car's engine followed. Her heart pounded, but her pace stayed calm and even. When she reached a dead-end alley, she stopped, pretending to check her phone. The car rolled up slowly behind her, headlights washing the walls in harsh light. The driver's door opened. Out stepped the bellhop, the same one who had been avoiding her eyes in the lobby. His posture was casual, but his gaze was sharp. "You've been asking a lot of questions, Maya," he said, his voice calm but edged with warning. "That's dangerous in this place." She slid her phone into her pocket, her tone steady. "Funny. I was going to say the same thing to you." He smirked. "You think you're clever, but you have no idea what's going on here. Walk away, and you can keep your job. Keep digging, and you won't like how it ends." Maya stepped closer, just enough to show she wasn't afraid. "Then maybe you should tell me exactly what's going on." For a second, his smirk faltered. Then he leaned in, lowering his voice. "Some people in this hotel would rather see it burn than be sold. And they're willing to make sure anyone who gets in the way, disappears." Before she could respond, he backed away, got into the car, and drove off, leaving her in the glow of the streetlight, her mind racing. Maya didn't sleep much that night. The bellhop's words replayed in her head over and over, "Rather see it burn than be sold." By morning, her fear had hardened into resolve. If the people behind the leak thought intimidation would scare her off, they didn't know her at all. She arrived at the hotel early, blending in as usual. But this time, her eyes weren't just watching, they were hunting. First, she reviewed the employee shift logs she'd quietly photographed earlier. A pattern emerged: the same 3 staff members, the bellhop, the head concierge, and Carl, the night manager, had overlapping shifts on days when confidential documents had gone missing. Next, she decided to use the bellhop's threat against him. That evening, she approached him in the service corridor, acting nervous. "I thought about what you said," she began, lowering her voice. "Maybe we can help each other." He eyed her suspiciously. "How?" "I know when Mr. Takeda is meeting with the board about the sale. If someone wanted to interrupt that, I could make sure they knew exactly when and where." The hook was set. His posture relaxed just slightly. "You'd really do that?" She gave a faint shrug. "If it benefits me." He nodded slowly, a calculating look in his eyes. "Meet me tomorrow night. Back entrance. 10 p.m. Don't be late." Maya walked away without looking back, her expression neutral, but inside, adrenaline surged. If this meeting went as she expected, she'd finally see who was pulling the strings. The next night, the hotel's back entrance was nearly deserted. The faint hum of the city was broken only by the occasional passing car. Maya arrived at 9:58 p.m., keeping her steps quiet. The bellhop was already there, leaning casually against the wall, hands in his pockets. "You're on time," he said, glancing around. "Good. Follow me." They moved quickly through a side alley, the air growing colder. At the far end, a door stood ajar, light spilling from inside. The bellhop pushed it open, gesturing for her to enter. The room beyond wasn't what she expected, not a storage area, but a private office. Papers were spread across a large desk, alongside a laptop showing an email chain filled with financial documents, all labeled confidential. Behind the desk sat Carl, the night manager. "So," Carl said without looking up, "you're the one who decided she wants to be useful." Maya stepped forward, masking her surprise. "You're the one orchestrating this." Carl finally met her eyes, his expression cold. "The sale of this hotel will ruin a lot of people. But my buyer? They'll make sure I'm taken care of, and anyone else smart enough to help." The bellhop smirked, leaning against the wall. Carl continued, "If you feed me Takeda's schedule, you'll get a nice cut. Stay loyal, and maybe you won't end up like the last person who asked too many questions." Maya tilted her head, feigning curiosity. "And what happened to them?" Carl's lips curved into a slow, dangerous smile. "Let's just say, they don't work here anymore." Inside, Maya's pulse raced, but on the surface, she smiled faintly. She'd gotten exactly what she came for: proof, faces, and a direct confession. Now all she needed was a way to get it to Takeda without alerting them. Maya left the meeting with Carl playing her part perfectly, acting intrigued, nodding at his offer, and promising to think it over. But the moment she stepped back into the cool night air, her real mission began. She ducked into a 24-hour cafe 2 blocks away, slipping into a corner booth with her phone. Carefully, she opened her voice recorder and replayed the conversation from the office, every word Carl had said, clear as day. Then she snapped quick photos of the documents on the desk, zooming in on the email headers that showed they had been sent to a competitor's domain. Her fingers itched to send them to Takeda immediately, but she hesitated. If Carl or the bellhop suspected anything too soon, they could destroy the rest of the evidence, or worse. She decided to hand it to him in person. The next morning, Maya timed her move. She waited until Takeda stepped into the penthouse elevator alone and quickly joined him, pressing the door close button before anyone else could enter. He looked surprised but not displeased. "You have something for me?" Without speaking, she handed him her phone, the recorder already playing. His expression didn't change at first, then his eyes hardened, jaw tightening with every word. When the recording ended, he looked at her sharply. This is enough to end them, but it must be done carefully. If they know we're onto them, they'll vanish before we can act. Maya nodded. So what's the plan? A slow, deliberate smile spread across his face. We set a trap. And you, Maya, will be the bait. 2 days later, the Crystal Horizon's grand lobby was a stage, though only a handful of people knew it. The staff bustled as usual, guests sipped cocktails, and the chandelier bathed the room in golden light. Maya stood at the reception desk, pretending to review the day's reservations. In her pocket was a small wireless microphone, its signal feeding directly to a discreet laptop in the penthouse, where Mr. Takeda and 2 trusted security officers listened in. Right on cue, Carl strode in, the bellhop trailing him. His eyes swept the lobby before landing on her. You have the schedule? He asked in a low voice. Yes, she replied calmly. Takeda meets with the board tonight in the Jade Room at 7. Carl's lips twitched into a satisfied grin. Perfect. We'll make sure it doesn't happen. He turned to the bellhop. Call our contact. Tell them we're moving now. Before the bellhop could reach for his phone, the elevator doors slid open. Mr. Takeda stepped out, flanked by 2 suited security officers. His voice carried across the lobby, calm, but edged with authority. Carl. I believe we need to talk. Carl froze, then tried to smile. Sir, save it, Takeda interrupted, producing a small remote from his pocket. With a click, Carl's own voice echoed through the lobby, the recording of his confession playing loud enough for every guest and staff member to hear. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The bellhop paled. Security moved in swiftly, placing a firm hand on each man's shoulder. Carl's protests were drowned out by the quiet, ruthless efficiency of the takedown. Takeda approached Maya, his expression softening just slightly. You handled this perfectly. The hotel owes you a great deal. She smiled faintly. Just doing my job. He studied her for a moment, then nodded. From now on, your job will be much bigger. As Carl was led out of the building, the lobby returned to its elegant calm, but for Maya, everything had changed. She had walked into the Crystal Horizon as an overlooked employee. Now, she walked out as the billionaire's most trusted ally. And somewhere deep inside, she knew, this was only the beginning.